Hey, what's up? It's your girl Reef, and I am back with a new episode of Elements of Culture, better known as EOC. And as you know, I only bring you all the culture's greatest, and I have a very special guest here with me today who's going to take us to the sports culture. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself. Go ahead and let the culture know your name and who you are.
What's up? I'm your girl JQ. I am a sports PR manager, sports personality, podcast producer, and I have my own company called JQ Sports PR, and I have my own podcast along with my co-host Spoon called Counting Me Out Podcast.
So you went ahead and named all the accolades. So as
Yes.
she said, we have Miss JQ here checking into EOC, and what a pleasure it is to have you.
Thank
How
you
are
for
you
having
doing?
me.
Thank you for coming. So we're gonna get right into things. It's really just gonna kind of be like a back and forth conversation. Like I said, I'm from Florida, so
Okay.
my listeners are a lot of them are in Florida. So I'm just kind of want to guide them through your story.
Okay.
So we're here in Atlanta, as you know. So are you originally from Atlanta, or like where were you born and raised? Like,
No, so when people ask me where I'm from, I give them my whole life story.
Okay.
So I was born in Montgomery, Alabama, the Gump.
okay,
And
334.
Yes. About 6 months after I was born, we moved to Los Angeles, stayed there until year 2000. And then we moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. My dad works for the airlines, so that's why we were moving around a lot. And then in 2016, I made that move here to Atlanta, Georgia.
And it's been a wrap since you've been here since.
Yes, sis.
Absolutely. That's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm a Florida native. I've been here since 2014.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been here ever since, and I haven't thought about that. So with you coming to Atlanta now, I know that you're into sports. Now, were you prior to you coming to Atlanta, you being in Los Angeles and North Carolina, were you into sports then, or kind of like how did you get into like the sports lane? Like, is
Yeah.
that something that's always been a passion of yours? Did you grow up doing it? So how did you get into that?
So I actually got into sports
Mhm.
in North Carolina.
Okay.
So my dad put us in sports. I played volleyball, ran track and field, and played basketball. So I think it was maybe my freshman year of high school. My parents said, Jaquise, it's time for you to make a decision on what sport you want to pursue
Mm-hmm.
because you can't play all sports, right? If you're going to
Oh,
focus on something, focus on one thing. So I made the decision to focus on basketball. So I played all 4 years of high school and then got a full ride to a Division I school in Maryland. Yeah, and then I did, I transferred to a JUCO in Texas for about a year.
mm-hmm.
And then I finished my last 2 years at St. Andrews, which is a Division II school in North Carolina. So that's where the background, the sports background came from,
Okay.
is that I'm a former college basketball player.
NCAA.
NCAA.
Former basketball
Former.
player. We got to say that.
Yes,
Got to say that.
yes.
Which that is amazing. Now, I must ask you, with you having that background and starting so early on, it was a lot of goats back then. Like, who was your role model?
Cappy Pondexter.
Really?
Yes, that's my girl.
What was the second one?
The second one, Allen
Who was this
Iverson.
one? Okay.
Allen Iverson.
Okay.
And they're still my two, biggest role models when it comes to basketball. But I love me some AI. I remember in middle school I had the armband, I had the finger band, I had the headband, I had the shoes, I had the jersey, I had the cornrows. Like I was definitely in my tomboy phase. But yeah,
Yes.
I love me some Allen Iverson.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We all, who didn't love Allen Iverson
Right.
with the Chris braids? He had it all going on. Now, as far as with you being an athlete and going to college, for those student athletes out there, how is that balancing that student athlete life?
It definitely takes some time to
Mhm.
adjust. I think what really helped me was the structure that I had at home. Getting up at a certain time, fixing my bed, going to school, coming home, doing my homework. And then I also have a little free time if I want to watch
Mhm.
television or something like that. But it definitely started at home with the structure that my parents had incorporated in our household. I was just talking to my boss today because she has her oldest son just got a scholarship to run track, and they haven't even started the season yet, and he's already discouraged.
Mhm.
And, he's talking about quitting because he says that the workouts are intense. He got his class schedule and he was like, Mom, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But
Mhm.
it definitely takes a lot of patience and adjustment, and then just having that support from your peers, from the coaches and things like that. But I think it really wasn't that difficult for me to transition into balancing being a student athlete, and throughout college.
Which is amazing. You did it.
Yeah.
And then you got your master's, and
Oh,
then you were a marketing assistant.
yeah.
So you did a lot.
You know what, to be honest with you, my last 2 years of undergrad, I had to make a decision on whether or not I wanted to pursue basketball professionally.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And or, get a job.
Mhm.
But quite honestly, I did not know what that career pathway looked like for me, because when I was playing ball, all I thought about was ball in school. So when it came to my last year, I had made the ultimate decision not to pursue basketball because I stopped loving the game. Our last 2 seasons at the school that I was at the time, we had a losing record. So, I said, you know what? All I know is ball in school. I'm going to go right into grad school. Got into Liberty. And while I was there as a full-time graduate student, Ashley, when I tell you I was interning for a semi-men's pro basketball team, also a coach for a girls basketball team, and I was a media producer for my own show.
Wow.
So I always kept myself busy, and I also interned for the Liberty football team as a marketing assistant. So I did all of that and still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But I knew sports and being around people is what I really wanted to pursue. So
Absolutely. You answered my question. I was literally going to say,
Yeah.
what was how did you choose the business over your love for the sport? So I mean, that's you answered it.
Yeah, because it took a while for me to really do some self reflection on what I wanted to do, what I felt like I was good at, and what I had a passion for. I'm really big on pursuing something that you have a passion for, right? Because even if the money is not coming in, that passion is going to push you to drive and continue to do what you're doing. But I knew my last year of graduate school, for the most part, I wanted to stay in sports media. And when I graduated, I didn't stay in Lynchburg. It was I love the area, but just to be honest, it wasn't much to do out there, and I didn't have any family, so it was no need of me staying out there once I got my master's degree. So I decided to move back to North Carolina. I bought this cheap camera. I can't remember if it was a Canon or a Sony. I can't remember, but I bought this cheap camera and I started traveling and interviewing the top high school boy basketball players in the nation. So a lot of the guys, yes, a lot of the guys that I was interviewing, and I think it was year 2016, are all now in the NBA, from Jason Tatum to Bam Adebayo to De'Aaron Fox. So I got, into that lane and said, I really enjoy doing this. But then I'm not sure if you follow, sports really, but when you come in contact with these elite athletes, you see them all the time. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate the relationships that came out of that, but I knew it was something else that I could provide to the sports community. And that's when I made that transition to being in front of the camera to now being behind the camera.
Absolutely. Still walking in your purpose. It's just a different role. You've
Most
always been in
absolutely.
alignment with it.
Yes.
I love that. So I want you to tell me more about your brand, the J Cube. You being a PR with the sports. Just overall about your brand, the services that you offer. Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so JQ Sports PR is a sports branding business. So I help athletes and sport brands with their branding and their marketing. And then along with that, I also help high school athletes and their families with the recruiting. So when it comes to the recruiting side, it gets a little crazy because, first and foremost, I have to make it known to the parent that I am not an agent. Sometimes when you hear PR manager, brand manager, representative, they're thinking that, I'm an agent, and that's not the case. A PR or a brand manager and an agent is two different things. So once I establish that, I like to have a conversation with the family and the student athlete to see where they are in the recruiting process. And what I have found out is that a lot of the student athletes, they're so focused on trying to get to a certain school or a certain level of competition, D1, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when kids hear Division 2, Division 3, JUCO, NAIA, they're not really interested in those type of programs because they're not getting clout. So when I have those conversations, you know, with them, we have a honest heart to heart on where you think you will be able to play,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm not going to a school just to say I'm on the team. Like I'm trying to get to that school and give buckets,
Excel and
right?
do everything.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So with the recruiting process, I help the kids with that, and then when it comes to the PR side, I help them build their personal brand because the NIL has definitely changed the game when it comes to college and in some states high school athletes because they can get paid off their name, image, and likeness. So what
Right.
we do, or what I do, is I help them build their personal brand or their online presence. So that way, when college coaches come to their page, go to their website, they can see who this student athlete is.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, yeah, these schools, these coaches, they want to recruit elite athletes, but they also want to know who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gets lost in the recruiting process. And people are still getting familiar with the NIL is because it's still new
Mm-hmm.
to a certain extent. But yeah, just helping athletes with their brand. I also had an opportunity to work with a few professional athletes as well. But it's the same thing with the high school
Right.
athletes, making sure that their brand is aligning with the NIL deals, the
Mm-hmm.
endorsements that they're bringing in, and just making sure that they're representing themselves in a positive light.
I want to ask you with athletes, is a social media presence, is that something that's like, do they have to have it? Because like we live in a world of like social media numbers and
Mm-hmm.
engagement interactions. Is that something that is like has to be a part of the deal or
Oh, most definitely.
okay?
Like most definitely. I have conversations with parents where unfortunately they discourage
Mm-hmm.
their child on being on social media. And I have to have a hard conversation with them because there are thousands of student athletes trying to get that scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the resources to attend certain camps or being able to go to certain elite tournaments and things like that, you're gonna have to use social media,
Mm-hmm.
specifically Twitter, or now it's X,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So you have to utilize those platforms because these coaches, especially the smaller schools, they don't have a budget to travel, to every single state to see a kid. So
Mm-hmm.
they may recruit a kid just based off what they're seeing online. So I encourage all student athletes, no matter what level you're on, you need to have some sort of online
Yeah.
presence. It is vital when it comes to the recruiting process.
It is. That's something that's like it's like Bible now. You
Yes, you
have
have
to.
to. Like, there's no other
Yeah.
way. And if you don't, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Right. It has to be personable in some kind of way. They got to feel connected to you, and
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, you can't get to everybody. So, a lot of times I do that too. I'm like, well, let me look and see like X, Y, and Z. So, but it is hard to put yourself out there to
It
the
is.
world constantly
You know
because of
what?
so
I'm
much.
so glad that you said that, Ashley, because I was working with one particular athlete. He plays football at the University of Georgia. And when we started working with each other, we were building and creating great content.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was time for him to execute and put the content on his social media, we wouldn't see it. And I would ask him, like, why aren't you putting the content that we created for the entire month on your social media? And he said, I'm just afraid of putting myself out there because I don't want people to judge me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of athletes, especially the ones that aren't getting, a lot of playing time, or that's known as the big man or the big woman on campus, they're like, what's the point? Like, I'm a second string or I'm the
Right.
eighth man off the bench. But at the end of the day, you're still a personal brand.
Right.
So I can understand why people feel hesitant of putting themselves out there, but you just have to set your boundaries. I know for me personally, on my social media, I don't put a lot of my personal
Yeah.
stuff on there.
It's a thin line.
It's a thin line because people are judgmental,
Very much.
right? And I get it. You don't want everybody all in your business, but at the end of the day, when you are running a business, people have to be able to
Yeah, they have
relate to you.
feel included in some kind of way. So you got to
Exactly.
know like what to put your personality out there without putting the detail of who you are, like dissect it. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm just like over it.
And if you want
Yeah.
to, like, if you do want to show the world that, you have a family, you're dating
Mhm.
somebody, new, create a personal page and, make it private. So that way you can see all the requests coming in.
Right.
But if you're running a business, if you're a personal brand, your page don't need to be private. And if so, that's the number one no when building a personal brand.
Yeah.
Your page cannot be private.
No, it's like it cannot be. Like they
Cannot.
gotta have some kind of access to you.
Right.
Now, I wanted to ask you, with you working with the students and, like you said, working with them during the recruiting process, I always say to whom much is given, much is required. Like what are some adversities that you've had to overcome, or some challenges that you faced and that you just kind of had to like just get over that?
Whew. So I would say when I first started my journey, back in 2016, when I started traveling and interviewing the elite athletes, I would go to some of these events and would notice that I'm the only female on the sideline. And some days, I roll up there with my sweatpants and my hoodie or whatnot. But then there are some days where I want to look cute. If I want to throw on a skirt that's appropriate and, with the collar, shirt, I'll get the side eye from man. Right. And they're looking at me like, what are you doing here? You don't know anything about basketball. So that was one of the things that I had to overcome because it frustrated me. And I also think it's because I didn't publicize and promote that I'm a former college athlete.
Right.
So when most people see me and I tell them, yeah, I used to play ball, they're like, no, you didn't. You too pretty to be a girl. I'm like, wait,
Yes,
what's
I
that
did.
supposed to mean? Right? Pretty girls can't play ball. So I would definitely say having to overcome that judgment where men, for the most part,
in a male dominated
industry, you can't look feminine. You can't look attractive and do sports. And that's not the case. It's all about how you present yourself, right?
Yes.
So I would definitely say that was one of the obstacles that I had to overcome, as well as, and you're about to get something that I don't share outside of the household. So my boyfriend and I, we have like real intimate conversations about, because he's a full-time videographer, so he does a lot of my behind the scenes, so he travels with me and things like that. And when we have these conversations, the first thing I'll say is, I won't say this to anybody else, but I'm gonna say it here because recently, well, honestly, over the years, but recently, I have come to a realization that this woman empowerment trend phase is not what it truly is. And it honestly makes me upset because, especially being in a male dominant industry, we all need to be helping each other. And we'll get a few men that's, pushing us, supporting us, putting us in rooms that we probably couldn't get in with, by ourselves. But it really, really makes me feel a way when women in the sports industry don't really come together and help each other out. It's all about,
it's mass.
Yes. And it's about, oh yeah, you running with that clique. Okay, I could, fuck with you or what? Can I first?
Yeah.
Okay.
You say whatever you want to say.
But it's like with me, I don't have a clique. Like I've always been by myself, right? And because I'm not rolling with that clique, I might not get the support from other people. But I just think that we need to do a better job, and that's why when I do come across women in the sports industry, I don't care if it's a simple conversation to give you some advice. Whatever I can do to help you, I'm going to help you. And if I cannot give you the answer that you're looking for, I'm going to direct you in that way. Right.
Shift the narrative and be a helping hand. It doesn't take much. Like, we're not in competition. We're shoulder to shoulder. I'm trying to, we're trying to help each other out. What you lack, I'm greater in that area, and vice versa. But I feel like it's like that everywhere.
That's
too.
True.
Like, even in the media world, it's so like jaw clenching because it's like I'm not intimidated at all. It's just, let's kumbaya together and help each other out. It doesn't have to be a vulture world, like, at all.
And I honestly think it starts with the person, because just like you said, like, we're here to help everybody. I'm confident in who I am.
Absolutely.
If something is for me, it's for me, and can't nobody or anything take that away.
Right.
And I think that's the mentality that people need to have, because if they do, they're not worried about this next person beside them getting to the back before they do.
Absolutely.
Right. So I just wish we would do a better job of helping and truly supporting, genuinely supporting each other. Because when I win, you win. When you win, I win.
And that's how it should
That's
be.
how it
Like,
should be.
That's a keynote. Y'all. Please take a keynote away from that. Like, let's just help each other and be all inclusive.
Right.
Now, I did want to ask you, I wanted to touch on, with you being a PR and networking, we all know networking is such a key concept. I wanted you to kind of talk about the importance of like sustaining those relationships, building those relationships, like the importance of building a brand outside of just the game and like things like that.
So if I can be transparent, it took me a while to get comfortable with networking, because I am not the icebreaker in the room. And I know a lot of people don't attend networking events because, either A, they're by themselves and they don't have anyone there, that they know.
Right.
And just like I said, with me, it's hard for me to go into a room and not know anybody and just start walking up to people and asking them, hey, my name is JQ. What do you do? Like, how can we? Yeah, I'm more that type of person where I'm like in a corner, scoping the scene out. And then if somebody comes over and asks me a question, oh, now you got the full JQ. We finna go in. We finna have this conversation. But the power of networking is so important when you're building a brand, when you're trying to pursue a business, pursue, opportunities. Yes. I know, for example, 2 weeks ago, there was this event that I was a part of. Shout out to Tycoon Sports Media. We held the first NIATL brunch. Yes. And what the event was about was bringing the sports community together, from athletes to business owners to local and national brands, and speaking and educating them on what NIL is. And one of the tasks that I had for the event was to find panelists. And in a 2-week span, I was grateful to bring on someone from QC Sports. Shout out to Brooke.
Amazing.
From QC Sports. Mick Hamilton from Icon Source. These are people actually that I've never spoken to. Never spoken to. And you know what got me in contact? Social media and other relationships that I've had. And when I reached out to them, I told them who I was, what we were trying to do. And of course, they came on to the event as the panelists, but it didn't stop there. I made sure that after that event, we stayed in contact. I told them how much I appreciate them for being a part of the event, and asked them, how can we grow together? Is there anything that I can do to help you, and vice versa? I think when you grow those relationships, it creates opportunities for you that you didn't even see coming.
It does.
So I definitely understand why sometimes networking is hard for people, because personally I had to overcome that, but it's so important. It's so important. Even if, to be honest, even if, like, for me, being that I'm in sports, if there's an event that's a non-sports event, I'm going to attend, because you never know what type of opportunity will come from that, right?
Like, you can do, oh my gosh, I didn't attend some stuff, and the relationship of it, I'm like, I really wasn't supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I was just with a friend of mine who has a passion for it, and I'm like, okay, this is your thing.
Right.
But it just flowed, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know this person would have been there. It's literally like a dot connector.
Yeah.
Like, you meet this person, and then they're going to refer you to that person. It's like I look at it like a honeycomb.
Yeah.
It's like it's so important. I'm so big on that. So I always like to see people hear their perspective of that, because I feel like that's how I've grown my brand, by just networking and doing that. Now, I want to ask you, what has been like your highlight in your career, like one of your most memorable moments?
I have a lot of them, but I guess I would use the recent milestone that I've accomplished, which is creating a podcast.
Yes.
Counting Me Out podcast. Yes. I was so...
And congrats on that. I was definitely going to get you to let us know where to listen and all of that.
Let me tell you something. Girl, when I say I was so scared, because I overthink stuff. You got the microphones, you got the switchboards, you got the light, you got the lighting. It's just
the production behind it.
Oh my gosh. It was just so much. And I've done interviews before, but it's just a cameraman, my microphone, and that's it, right? But actually creating a stage, like
Mhm.
this place is dope. I love
Right.
this.
Shout out to ATL Basic
Yes.
Studios. Y'all following them on
Y-
IG.
Yes. So it was a great accomplishment, and seeing how fast it's growing.
Mhm.
We launched it back in April 2023. Um, we have, I think it's about 600 some subscribers,
That's
and then
amazing.
75K plus views across, what is it, six videos? Like six
That's
videos.
amazing.
And I just got to thank my team, because I couldn't do it
Yes.
without by myself.
Yes.
Everybody from my production team to Spoon, my intern Megan. Yeah, I just
All those key concepts. You got
yes,
the recipe.
girl.
You got the recipe. You doing a good job.
Thank
like
you.
you really doing your thing out here, girl.
It's a lot of work.
I understand.
As you know,
yes.
you got to find the talent.
Right.
You got to find the venue. You got to look up the questions, girl. Oh my god,
You
it's
got
a
to do
lot.
your research.
Yes.
You got to know and be able to just keep the flow of things, you know?
Yeah.
Because some interviews, you know, we watching, we like, ooh, it's kind of like teeth clenching. Like, ooh. But I mean, you're doing it. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Like
I
literally was
that.
looking. I was reading about you. I'm like, yeah, she's done a lot, even from your collabs with major brands.
Yeah.
Like all of your accolades, you have really like you're making your mark in the sports world.
Yes.
So like, I just want to say
I
congrats to you.
appreciate that.
No, I have to give you your flowers right here in my face. I must do that. Now I want to ask you, what is JQ listening to? Like, what's the top 3 artists on your playlist? I kind of want to switch it up a little bit.
Let's see. Top 3 artists. I am an old school.
Okay, that's fine.
So,
wherever.
mixture old school, new school.
Mhm.
But for new school, I love her.
Yes. She's so therapeutic.
Oh my gosh.
I love her too. Just everything about her.
Her voice is just so calming.
How she is, how she carries herself. Like she's just that
pure
girl
talent.
Yes.
Pure talent. I gotta throw Drake in there. I love me some Drake.
Yes. Are you going to see him?
Oh yes,
me too.
My sisters and I, we actually had a sister call the other day. We were like, okay, what's the game plan? Like, who?
For real.
Like, when we gonna buy the tickets?
Yes.
What we wearing? What we're doing before we go to the concert?
Crunch time next month, honey.
Look, Drake got me through some times in college.
Listen. Singing Drake, Cypher Drake, everybody can relate to Drake.
I like the old Drake.
That's why I was gonna ask you, like singing Drake, or you like Cypher Drake, like shit talking Drake.
I like singing Drake.
Okay, Loverboy Drake.
Loverboy Drake.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Even though some of his new stuff is good too, but Drake definitely got me through some stuff in college. But I would say the third artist would be, who's my third artist? Darrell? He's back there like, I don't know. He hears me listen to music. I listen to Pandora all the time.
Okay.
So we got Drake, we got
her.
We got her, and
which are both make timeless music.
Oh, let me throw in some little Meg Thee Stallion.
Yes. A little
I love
hot girl.
Yes. I love That's my girl. I love Meg Thee Stallion.
Of course, who doesn't listen to Meg? I know I put on Meg when I want to just feel myself a little bit and get my day started, or just pick myself up.
I love her confidence.
Yes.
I love her confidence. Like, she don't give a
what
anybody has to say.
The natural body,
the
her
natural,
just being
natural bodies are popping right now.
That body is bodying. Like, I'm trying to go to, what is it, Hottie Camp?
Hottie Camp, girl.
I need to be there.
She's definitely an inspiration. I need to get back on working out, but I love Make the Style. She definitely gets me in that mood where, like you said, feeling myself. I want to feel good. I'm going out with my girls, with my sisters. So yeah, those 3 are my top 3 playlists right now.
That's a good.
It's a mixture.
Yeah,
right?
That's a real good mixture.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I like that. So before we get out of here, I want to ask you, like, what's next for JQ? Like, what can we expect from you?
Ooh, what can you guys expect from me? That's a really good question, because we're shooting our last 2 episodes. This next week.
Okay.
Actually, in 2 weeks. And I'm gonna take a break because I have some things going on outside of my brand.
Okay.
That I'm about to transition to. So I want
much success.
Yes.
Whatever it is.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. But you know how it is.
Yes.
A new opportunity can come about just from this podcast, right? So it can be tomorrow, it can be next week. and I'm open for it. I'm just really
Limitless. You're not limiting yourself to
no,
anything
of
or
course
putting
not.
yourself in a box.
Of
Like
course,
however you got to move,
exactly.
I'm moving within that.
Exactly. So I'm really excited on what's to come. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what that is, but I really enjoyed this conversation.
I enjoyed you
And I
too.
have to give you your props because everybody can't interview. And
Thank
you did
you.
it. You made me feel comfortable.
Thank
You asked the
you.
right questions.
Thank you
You
so
you made
much.
it feel like a conversation.
I
And
really appreciate
that
that.
takes skill. So you're doing a good job here. So I'm gonna give you your flowers as well.
Thank you so much. Now,
You're welcome.
before we get out of here, you got to let them know where to follow you, where they can tune into your podcast, where to subscribe because they need to
Of
subscribe,
course, y'all
all of
need,
that.
of course. So you guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JQ Sports PR. And then the podcast is on Instagram, Counted Me Out Podcast. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And yeah, that's
That's
how
what
you
it
can.
is.
Oh, and my website. Hold on. My
Yes,
website,
all of it.
jqsportspr.com. You see how everything is consistent, right? Make it consistent, make it easier for
Yes.
people to follow and find you online.
Absolutely. So y'all heard it here. Y'all make sure y'all follow, subscribe, tune into the podcast. If you need the services, tap into the brand.
Yes.
All of that good stuff. And once again, y'all know where to follow Elements of Culture at _ Elements of Culture. If you go on Instagram, click the link in the bio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And once again, my name is Ree. This is the lovely JQ, and we are out.